All right, good morning, everyone. This is going to be the first of a series of videos to help you through the storm, the tempest, help you navigate the troubled waters of Shakespearean English, which can be difficult. So I hope that I can maybe condense some of the work for you by pointing out some of the important features of the plot as well as some of the thematic material that's being developed throughout the play. So with each of the readings that you're going to do, there will be a video like this, and you could use this video either before or after you do the reading. It's up to you, however best it helps you. So if you're familiar with Shakespeare, you may have read plays like Macbeth. I'm thinking and Macbeth has this very ominous opening. And so every Shakespeare play has a very portentous opening scene. It's the witches in Macbeth. In Hamlet, it's the tolling of the bell at midnight. And here we have a big giant storm and a boat that seems to be pretty helpless and that's about to wreck in the storm. I would like for you to know that this is a little bit of a conventional twist that Shakespeare makes, because with a storm you're going to think that this is going to be another tragedy. The audience at the time certainly would have been cued into the fact that a storm represents, a lot of upheaval, a lot of disaster. It sets this tone for a sort of morbid storyline. But The Tempest, being Shakespeare's last play, is not a tragedy. It's what we call a tragicomedy. Okay, there are some elements of tragedy within the play, but it's mostly a comedy. So there's going to be a lot of funny things happening. It's also referred to as a romance. Tragicomedy, romance are two labels that get attached to Shakespeare's later plays. So let's look at some of the things that are going on in Act 1, Scene 1. So I'm using ShakespeareOnline.com, and I think this is a pretty good text that we can all use, and it's pretty nice to navigate, you see here. So Scene 1, on a ship at sea, a tempestuous noise. This stage direction here, a tempestuous noise, should sort of get the imagination thinking about what kind of sounds did they use back in the day to make thunder and lightning, and they didn't have the modern soundboard that we do. It was likely that they used big sheets of metal that they would shake and rattle to create the sound of thunder. I'm sure that they did some other things to evoke the sort of chaos of a storm, and they definitely had people in the background creating that kind of noise. So that's just an interesting fact. So let's go into the text here and see what we got. All right, there's some minor characters here in the beginning. The master, the bosun, the master. Okay, there's this confusion between the two. I'm going to pause for just a second. Okay, just to let you know, the master of the ship, the bosun, the master might be more like the admiral or the chief officer of the ship. The bosun is a little bit lower ranking. I mention this because rank and the order of class, and then the ranking that occurs within nobility, all of that stuff is important in The Tempest, because rank and status all get overturned thanks to this big storm that's happening. And we will see that play out when everybody's lands on this island shipwrecked, and the norms that they're used to are totally just obliterated, and they kind of start from nothing and kind of a survival situation on an island off the coast of Africa. Okay, so here we get a bunch of characters here, and you'll get a taste for each of them as the plot progresses. We have this Alonso guy who is a king, and the bosun telling Alonso, who is a king, I pray now, keep below. Where is the master? And then the bosun says, do you not hear me? You mar our labor. Keep your cabins. You do assist the storm. He's basically saying, you might be a king, but in this situation, you're helping out the storm. We're the ones in charge of the ship. You're just getting in the way, so get back into the cabin. Again, we see this theme of power and social status being overturned. And here it happens in the context of this big storm. And you can imagine the boat rocking back and forth. People are freaking out, etc., etc. Let me bring up a quick little chart here for you. Here are some of the characters. We have this King Alonso. He's king of Naples. Okay, we're going to find out some of the backstory. Prospero is going to be the main king, and he's already on the island. Prospero also has a daughter named Miranda, and she and this guy Ferdinand, Alonso's son, are going to meet and fall in love, and you'll see that play out later on. Is Alonso a bad guy or a good guy? Mostly good, but a little bit bad, because we find out that he did profit from Prospero's overthrow. Antonio, who we're going to meet later, he took away the dukedom from Prospero. Okay, so he stole his title and sent him away. We find out about that a little bit later. Alonso might have been a little bit complicit in this, but the real enemy, the real evil guy, is Antonio. We'll meet some of these other characters a little bit later. All right, moving on to the next bit of dialogue here. There's more confusion, people entering and exiting the stage amidst this big storm. And then we hear Antonio getting a little bit salty. Hang, cur, hang, you whoreson, insolent noisemaker. We are less afraid to be drowned than thou art. And he's cursing at the bosun, and Gonzalo says, I'll warrant him for drowning, though the ship were no stronger than a nutshell, and as leaky as an unstanched wench. And so on, back and forth. They're basically saying that the bosun is not doing his job, and if he's not going to drown here, he's going to probably drown in another way and die in another way. All right, so moving on, we hear this stage direction here. Mercy on us, we split. We're talking about the boat here that's splitting apart. Antonio says, let's all sink with the king. And just a character reminder. Okay, Antonio is talking about Alonso, king of Naples. And I think at this point Alonso is lost at sea, and everyone else is preparing to drown, to get swept up by the waves now that the ship is broken and is sinking. And so they think they're about to die. Now I would give 1,000 furlongs of sea for an acre of barren ground. Ling heath, brown furs and thing, the wills above be done, but I would fain die a dry death. So here he is saying, looks like I'm gonna die at sea. He's sort of longing for land. We find out that Gonzalo is a pretty good guy later on. He's sort of like a voice of reason. He's sensitive. His emotions are usually accurate. Anyway, his character develops along the way as we find out more about the situation. Let's move on to Act 1, Scene 2, where it's a change of scene. We meet Miranda and Prospero. Okay, so I want to remind you again about Prospero. He's the sort of center character. He was the king of, he was the duke, and Antonio took his dukedom, the Duke of Milan, I believe. Now, years and years and years and years ago, we're talking maybe like 15 years or prior to the story, he was banished to this island. Now, the thing is that Prospero is also a magician and a practitioner of these dark arts. We find out that he's been hanging out on this island with his daughter, and he also has recruited this spirit named Ariel, and a slave named Caliban. We find out that Prospero is the one who has caused this storm. And Miranda gets a little bit of history about where she and Prospero have come from. See, all she knows is life on the island. And here Prospero is going to explain to her what happened. And we wonder actually if she's even listening. Here she says, "By your art, my dearest father, you have put the wild waters in this roar. Allay them." See, she knows that her father has magical powers, and she's kind of scared that this ship is going to wreck and all these people are going to die. She's begging him to calm down, don't kill them. He says, "Be collected, no more amazement. Tell your piteous heart there's no harm done." As in, Prospero says, "I've got this handled." He again assures her, "No harm. I have done nothing but in care of thee." So he's got this big plan, and he's got her in mind for the plan. Prospero says, "Now it's the time for us to have this talk, okay? I need to inform thee farther. Lend me thy hand and pluck my magic garment from me." So, he lays down his garment, his mantle, which is a symbol of his magic power. He says, "Lie there, my art." Okay, and earlier Miranda refers to art as his sorcery. Here, Prospero refers to Miranda as his art, as in his offspring, his greatest creation. Okay, you can read in summaries, and you can read here in the text that there's this back and forth exchange. You get the sense that he keeps asking Miranda if she's paying attention. Probably she's distracted by the storm. Prospero explains what happened and why they were banished and why they had to leave Milan. Pause for a minute. Okay, in this passage here we get the details about his brother Antonio. Okay, here we go. Antonio, Prospero's brother, who seized the dukedom. Okay. That again, I pray thee mark me, like pay attention, as if she might be distracted. She's young, she's around 15, and here he is trying to give her this complex soap opera about his overthrow. That a brother should be so perfidious, bad, evil. He whom next to thyself of all the world I loved, and to him put the manage of my state. So he says that he loved his brother, but he got distracted. Ironic. He became engrossed in his studies, and he let his brother manage the government while he was busy studying. What was he studying? He was studying the dark arts. And while he was wrapped in secret studies, the false uncle, and then he asks again, "Are you listening?" "Sir, I am," says the uncle, then arranged to overthrow me. Okay, I'm going to wrap this video up. We only can do 15 minutes at a time here. We'll begin talking about Prospero and his exile and the history behind Prospero and Miranda.